Hi everyone, my name is Alberto. Me llamo Alberto. Buenas tardes o buenos días, no sé bien qué hora es. So I'm here to talk about the cLabs, the goal of why cLabs is on the ecosystem and what do we do, and then also talk about mission-aligned projects and how we plan to improve that. I don't know where to point. Oh, I have to wait for a second. I was too eager, sorry about that. All right. So I'm going to start. I'm the head of product. I also run the design team and for cLabs. So what is the role of cLabs in the ecosystem? There's a lot of companies. We're one of the many companies that actually works on Celo and contributes code to Celo. The first thing we are an infrastructure provider. That means that we are in charge of building the roads. We're in charge of building things that in general the community or the ecosystem does not want to build. If you think about a city, sometimes the city does not want to build the police, so they don't want to build the fire department, and they don't want to build the electricity grid because most of those are non-profitable businesses. And the role of cLabs is to produce the things that the community will not be building and provide those roads so people can actually build and have those utility tools. As you can see from this picture, the other thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to be green as much as possible. So everything that we build from cLabs, we have that green mindness to do it. And how do we allocate our engineering resources? 70% actually works on the scalability. We also work in primitives that allows developers to build on top. And we focus a lot in the speed. How can we process the blockchain faster? How can we process every block? How do we reach a lot of TPS? And the other thing that we do is Mento. Mento is the way that we actually mint coins and the way we actually create stable coins and the way we balance our tokens. Then we have a 20% chunk of the team that is actually working on things like payments or, for example, DeFi, things like create a native yield that I will talk in a minute about. And lastly, we have around 10% of things that we do on long-term bets, things that we're thinking it could actually make a big difference, but they're a little bit experimental. So cLabs updates. The first one is we talked a lot about the hard fork, the Espresso hard fork. We introduced a lot of changes from both Berlin and London. What all of this means is, and I see that when people were raising their hand, there's not a lot of developers, but what this means is we improved the cost, the gas fee cost, so there's a better estimation. We also did better development for network optimizations. And then we, on top of the Berlin and London changes, we implemented 3 CIPs, 43, 47, and 50, which actually improve the block better block information. So when you go into analytics and things like that, you can actually see better information about the block, improvements on IBFT, and then the last one is reply protection. And then Marianne is going to talk a lot in depth about what is coming next on Celo 2.0. And you're going to also see very soon a governance proposal to increase the speed of the blocks by 75%. I've seen on the forum a lot of questions about, hey, I want to issue a new coin, I want to issue the Indian rupee, or I want to issue in the Swiss franc or the British pound. This is what it takes to actually to issue. cLabs is over here that's part of the job, which our job in this whole set of things is actually the engineering part. So the Mento team will create the integration with the different exchanges, and it will create the issuance of the token. But there's a lot more that goes into it. There needs to be liquidity in the exchanges. So when, for example, we launch Brazil, many of the exchanges ask us for money. Of course, that's not the role of cLabs, it's more the role of the foundation. And the foundation needs to provide that liquidity so things do not get the peg immediately. That is around $10 million that the Celo Foundation will have to introduce to be able to have a stable coins in a particular market. we also need to create yield, right? There needs to be a demand for that stable coin. There's often people coming with good use cases, but there's often just one good use case. And what if that use case fails? Then that coin will actually not succeed. So if we want to introduce a coin, we want to make sure that it also has yield. And then there's lots of marketing. You need to make sure that you just put it out there. It's very hard for people to know about Celo. It's even harder to know about a stable coin, and even harder to know about a local stable coin. So we want to make sure that when we go in country, you actually have those. And a timeline is around 4 months is what it takes to build any of these stable coins. So please post on the forum. Nimit, who is over there, can actually give feedback about how to actually issue stable coins and work with you if you don't want to post on the forum. The next thing is you've seen from the keynote, and you've seen on our white papers that we have. You can send phone mapping verification. Where we have is you can send it to an SMS. You can just say it's run by a validator. The user gets 3 SMSs, and it's a little bit complex and slower to actually get this verification. What we're trying to do in Q2, and we're very close, and you can talk to Arthur, who's over there with a mask, one of the mask people. That is going to be done with the wallet has control. You get only 1 SMS, and it's simpler and faster to actually do this. The other one that we're doing is account recovery. Normal users, and what I mean by normal users, I mean people who are not in tech, have a really hard time with the 12 words or the 24 words and where to store it. I gave my 24 words to my wife, and immediately she put it on the nightstand. Please, I'm glad nobody knows my address, and she left it over there. I'm like, no, this is more important than just put it into your night drawer. And she didn't understand it. I gave her a wallet. She doesn't understand it, even though she's in tech and she works in tech. So it's very complex, and we want to make sure that that complexity goes away. So the first thing we're trying to do is how do you recover your account with a PIN number? Everybody knows how to do a PIN. How do we store part of the encrypted, all those encrypted words we store in the cloud? And then how do we guarantee that they can get those keys back? Data transparency. So we're trying to make sure that people hold us accountable and they actually see a lot better the data. If we say 3.8 million wallets, you can actually verify that it's 3.8 million wallets, and you can go deep into it and how many are actives, how many have token holders, etc. And Matt, who's over there, who can also talk more if you have any questions or requests for them. We're launching Explorer dashboards for CS Stable, the reserve, and a lot more in the next in this week or next weeks. And we're going to do a lot more contract verification. Plumo, you've been hearing about Plumo for a long time at Celo. If you've been coming to our conferences or you've been attending any of our talks. But finally, it's been released. And you've seen from today and the keynote a demo of it working. And it's a great improvement, and it's ready now. We're also creating a native yield. So the first thing, when you look at other blockchains, most of them have already a native yield that you can actually have liquid staking. And the liquid staking protocol is going to come to Celo in the next weeks. We're not talking about months. Mathieu, who's over here, he's going to be, I thought he was over here. Mathieu is going to have his own talk about this specifically. There's a whole session. And the idea is to have a protocol level, and then after the protocol level, potentially there might be a UI that will allow us to interact with it. In payments, so the part of the 20% that cLabs is working on is in payments. There's a lot of demos today that you can actually do in payments. There's a chair massage. There's you can actually get water bottles, swag, etc. on the top floor, and all of them have a different purpose. For example, the swag that you can get with the bottles, what happens, and then on the demo does not any justice to actually what happens, but the user pays in CUSD or CEuro, and the merchant gets their money in fiat at the end of the day or at the end of the week, depending on the settlement and depending on the amounts, which is pretty cool for any merchant to be able to not think about. So the merchant doesn't have to think of what do I do with my CUSD. I never heard about this coin. There's others. For example, there's a card that is a native card that you can actually go and tap and pay into different POSs and points of sale. And in those points of sale, they will be able to transact directly in the native and it will be on-chain, and you can actually see the transaction. You don't need a Valora or anything else. You can just have this card in your wallet, and you can be offline, which is very good for mission aligned and, for example, places like Impact Market, where you go and you might not have connectivity or you might not have a cell phone. And on the roadmap of this, you're going to see QR codes for inside the SDK, and then we're going to do things like roundup functionality, so you can potentially round up your transaction and give money to a cause that actually, and you can actually see it later on in any of these dashboards where your money went and track it and see whether it actually did some good or not. Almost the last one is mission composability, which is what the talk is about, and is a way for everybody. We believe that everybody that's in the ecosystem is really well mission aligned. They are thinking about climate, they are thinking about universal basic income, they're thinking about not just having 5 whales that have all the money, but rather many, many users. For example, when we launched in Brazil, in just 1 week, we had a lot more token holders than we had in cEuro, which cEuro was almost for 9 months. Even though the amounts of the cReal that we have is a lot less than the cEuro, but to me that's an incredible achievement to have so many users with the smaller amounts, and is more important. Of course, you have to balance both. So when you go and talk to Nimit about issuing a coin, let's say in India, we want a lot of those, but we also need to have some of the other ones that are on other developed countries. Anyway, so what we want to do is we want to build a primitive that allows the ecosystem builders to contribute to mission alliance causes on Celo. And what this means really is this is a graph of how Mula works today. There's lenders and borrowers, and everybody mostly knows how it is. You deposit, you get in exchange some interest, they borrow, the borrowers get a crypto loan, and they repay the loan with interest. What we want to do, for example, in a specific case of Mula, will be we add, when you're going to check out, will be a button that says claim your rewards on the lender side, or you can say claim and donate. If you go, for example, to, if I continue with the thread of Mula, in Mula you can actually, there's a settings page, and in that settings page you will be able to have a way to say how much you want to contribute, to what causes you want to contribute. So you have 2 buttons, and basically it automatically does. What this does is many things, and I know this is only a first world problem, meaning not everybody is willing to claim and donate, but for example, I will. And one of the reasons why is it's not a taxable event. What I mean by that is I often claim my gains, and then I donate every year thousands or whatever I give every year to different causes. But I already paid in California 40% federal tax plus 10 or 11% the California tax. So it's 50%. In this case, the whole amount will actually be able to reach these causes, right? Which is a great use of crypto. And other things that you can do is if you are going to do, for example, giving donations to tokenize the forest, if you choose to do climate collective, things like that, then we can actually aggregate those. And things like Thomas on Fly Wallet will be able to have a predictability also on what is going to be the price, versus today carbon offsets vary quite a bit on price. So what we want to do is we want to extend it, the smart contracts, to allow developers, and this will be part of the core contracts that we have. We don't want, I think Uniswap, for example, and Mula and Fly Wallet, there's a lot of them trying to do this, and what they have to do is they have to do 2 transactions. And the goal for us is not to have 2 transactions, it's rather just in 1 transaction everything gets executed. The idea will be to have causes like UBI, climate, and financial inclusion into this. And at the application layer, what we do is they will be able to provide, the developers will be able to provide a list of causes that you want to allocate some of these, some of the claim or roundups, etc. And then we want to also create a marketplace. Like large corporations love to do during Christmas time matching, right? And it would be great if, for example, you say, hey, when you're claiming today on Uniswap, you go and if you claim and donate, the foundation or some other cause will actually match the funds that you're doing, and therefore creating a much bigger effect. Things that we're thinking about in terms of UI is the claim and collect. We're thinking about a slider that can actually determine what kind of percentages you want to give to these causes. So you will be able to slide it. And then other things are like, what if we give a badge or an NFT that you can actually display it? Because the moment you actually pass when you never touch it, then you actually never get any recognition for that donation that you did. And we want to make sure that there's some value that also the user gets, or some satisfaction. That could be in the form of badges, or it could be in the forms of NFTs. The idea for these NFTs will be that they're non-transferable and have no value, because then again, you go into the loop of having taxes, etc. So we want to make sure that is thought out in a way that you actually have a governance token that you can go and vote in the causes that you want to go next, whether it's Ukraine or whether it's a hurricane that happens in the Caribbean. But you no longer have this, you don't have a token like the PAC token, or you no longer have a token like a moss.earth type of token. Of course, there's some challenges, right? Do people get a governance token, or should these tokens get any value, right, or be transferable? And we wanna have also potentially a registry, which I know has been tried a few times to have a registry on blockchain, and how does that registry get created and maintained, and who is part of that list? And I would love to get community feedback on those. Lastly, I think Brandy was saying something about roadmaps. Well, here's a roadmap for cLabs. There will be an update on the forum of Celo probably at the end of this week, where we'll post the next roadmap, which will include all of this. Today, on the blockchain, we have launched the Espresso, as you've seen from a few weeks ago. Then we already launched, and it's already in GitHub, the Payments SDK. We have Celo Safe, which is a way to actually connect multiple wallets and connect multiple bank accounts together, and then be able to be able to pay for things. One of the demos we have upstairs, people are buying massages, and people are buying cookies, and that goes into a Celo Safe, and we're happy to show the demo, and then how it gets distributed, and there's a multi-sig, etc. It's a core functionality or primitive that we have to build. And on the infrastructure, you heard about account recovery, Celo savings, and data transparency. What is coming in Q3 is Narwhal, and there's a talk today, maybe 40 minutes from now, 30 minutes from now, where they're trying to increase the execution of the blocks, and we're also going to have Mento optimizations at that time. We're going to have in Q3 a payments card, which means we're going to have something that will allow you to pay with Visa or MasterCard. Therefore, again, going back into the user has and holds the native token or stable coin, and you just pay, and the merchant gets paid in what they're used to. Of course, that doesn't solve the fees and the commissions that everybody gets, but it's a step closer to where we want to get, that you can actually spend the Celo that you get, whether it's to UBI or similar, anywhere you want, and not just in a few places. The egg protocol front end will be probably launching Q3. And on the infrastructure side, we'll have federated attestation and this mission composability that I was talking about. And then probably towards the end of the year, Celo 2.0. Again, Marianne's going to talk in 2 minutes about it, and more decentralization in the form of Mento. So with that, I think I am on time. Thank you.